What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another live stream. We're back with match preview. West Brom, as you can see, yes, camera is messed up again. Give me a second. I will sort that out in 1 second if I can find it. There we go. Awesome, cool. So yeah, we are back with another preview. Obviously been a busy week for us. Hopefully all having a good day. Hopefully everything is fine. Sunday, everyone back to work tomorrow probably. I know I am, so not looking forward to that. But we got QPR West Brom, or West Brom QPR tomorrow. I do apologize if the live stream yesterday was a bit long. I thought I'd do a little bit something different for you guys yesterday. Doing that video will be put up on YouTube eventually. But yeah, I thought I would do a half the end of the season or end of the year review of what the players have been like this season. But welcome in everyone to the match preview for tomorrow's game at the Hawthorns against West Brom, which obviously everyone knows we recently played a couple of weeks ago and beat them at home 3-1, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. I might have to double check that because I could be wrong. Let me just double check just in case I could be wrong. Head to head, yeah, we beat them 3-1, 6th of December. Who we have in the chat? All right, so we got Ryan. Ryan, hello, mate. How are you? How are things? I'm good, mate. How are you? Hopefully you're okay. We got West 12 Lofters in the chat. Yes, what's going on? Good to see another stream. We've been popping off. I'm not gonna lie, these streams have been popping off, man. Honestly, the last couple of weeks, you know, busy with Christmas period. It's always a busy football period because you know, you have more games, not just Champions League and all that, but more games as well in midweek. So yeah, it's all right, but half of the time it can be exhausting. But you know, it's good to see football, you know, all the time being played. So yeah, Ryan says gonna be a big one tomorrow. It will be at the Hawthorns for sure. It will be a different game in the sense of how we played them at home. But listen, look, when you've played a club recently, you should know how they play, you know, and it's a dynamic of who's gonna have the advantage in that game. Is it gonna be West Brom or is it gonna be QPR? At the end of the day, West Brom at home, they're gonna probably be the favourites, but at the moment Ryan Mason is not exactly doing well at the moment, with West Brom falling to 16th compared to where he was at the start of the season. You know, previously, obviously we'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, and I'm excited for this match. Hope we can keep our good form. I think the main thing is ending the year off brilliant. You know, we've had an extraordinary up and down year where Marty at the start of the year was our manager. You know, he tried his best, but it just wasn't working out. And then obviously we part ties with him at the end of the season. New season started in August with a new manager in Julian. And, you know, it was a rocky start. I'll be honest, it was a rocky start. But when he made the promise, Julian, he did say after that Coventry game, it will never happen again. And it changed, you know. He kept his promise and he's been flying high with QPR, you know. I'm not expecting amazing things just yet, because it's just his first season at QPR and the first season in English football. So, you know, in my opinion, it's a positive. You know, he's doing the same thing as he would do in France, you know, putting a team in a good position, and, you know, up in the top 6. So, yeah. Hopefully that pumping performance was a one-time thing. It's like I said, it seemed a bit weird. Yes, it seemed a bit weird, the match on Friday. It did. I personally think I've never seen us play like that, apart from maybe Ipswich game, Coventry possibly, when we just sit back and do nothing for the first half, which was really bad. I'm hoping for a lot better game tomorrow away. You know, I want to end the year off in a big bang. You know, we've done really well in December, you know, and I really want to continue that form. You know, there's teams obviously that we have lost against, like Middlesbrough and Norwich, but I personally think the Middlesbrough game, we were just outclassed, and the Norwich game, we was pretty much just shit. on the day. It's that simple, you know. Two clubs that have got new managers that are doing well with their new managers. But I think Middlesbrough are the ones that are looking dangerous at the moment this season, you know. So yeah. But thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm joking. Thank you everyone for those comments and all that. We'll definitely be ready for tomorrow, I reckon. We'll see what happens. But we got a couple people in the group. We got a couple people in the chat. So let's get cracking into this match reaction. I don't want to waste anyone's time. I'm just gonna try and flicker the switch. Here we go. Right. So as you can see, we are 9th in the league. QPR. Is it 9th? Yeah, 9th. Just above, well, Watford, I'm surprised about Watford and Millwall actually ahead of us. But, you know, Millwall do have a good manager in terms like that. But, listen, we've just recently come back off the result of West Brom at home, you know. There's not much to really go into it. There's nothing, no improvements, no changes at West Brom apart from losing to Bristol City their last game on Friday, I believe it was. We know how they play. We do, you know, they try to play a possession game. They do, from the back, and that's where they lose their shape, a lot. You know, key people for West Brom: Price, Hegebo, Grant, Styles. You know, majority of the defense is pretty good in West Brom, but we was able to defeat them. You know, we was able to defeat them. You know, their threat, we know where their threat comes from now. It's crosses, you know, and hopefully we can stop Hegebo from getting that goal like last time that went above Jimmy Dunn. You know, that shouldn't be happening. But at the end of the day, if we go to our, you know, our match beforehand, you know, we controlled that game pretty well. The possession wasn't there, you know, but our expected goals was up there. You know, big chances we created were there. We didn't have that many total shots. I'll be in that defense there. You know, West Brom did have more chances in the sense of in shot wise, but I feel like majority of our chances came in the box. You know, that's where we score our goals mainly, is in the box. So it's good to see that we're working the ball into the box to score these goals. We are this year. And I just think we need to more focus on what to improve in this game, you know. I think our defensive issues are still an issue. You know, Varane at the start scored just before halftime in the last previous game, and Burrell scored 2 bangers. He did. You know, second half changed completely. It did. You know, it was a bit of a threat when Hegebo scored in the 76th minute to make it 2-1 before at home. But I still think when we go to this game away, we need to go there and literally do the same thing as we did against Leicester. Go in full attack straight away. No respect. Just don't respect the team whatsoever. We know what West Brom are capable of, especially if they're at home. It's going to be a bit more difficult, I reckon, depending on how the fans are reacting to it. But I honestly still think the confidence for us, if we go into it like the Leicester game and the West Brom game, we could come out with a 1-0 win, I reckon. A 1-0 win, a 2-1 win, whatever it is, you know. I'll be happy with a draw, going to the Hawthorns for a draw, but I want to play this game to win, you know. QPR need to go into this to win, you know. Finish the year off with a bang, start off fresh. I do understand the fact being that QPR are probably going to be changing that team around on tomorrow night. They will, you know, there's going to be players that are tired. You know, there's going to probably be a lot of information coming out in the next couple of days if anyone's leaving or anyone's coming in. You know, obviously the big one, we'll wait and see, hopefully on the 1st of January, which is on Wednesday or Thursday. I think it's Thursday. First January window opens on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. So yeah. But like I said, the key players that we need to watch out for: Price, Hegebo, Grant. The Styles can be a bit dangerous sometimes. But in defensive wise, Taylor played horrible at Loftus Road for thing. Metham was really bad. The keeper, when I tell you, whenever Varane's goal went in, it looked very suspicious that West Brom wasn't even, you know, trying or even bothering. You know, that West Brom keeper looked lazy as hell and that first goal went in, you know, from Varane. It was just, like, I'm glad we scored, but if you see the dive, it was so late and it looked so dramatic, you know? So But Varane scoring is quality, you know, it's something that we need to see a lot of. Varane is a quality midfielder, but, you know, he rarely gets into that box, which we do really need him in that box for sometimes to set pieces, because he has the height more than other wingers do in our team, you know? So, like I said, we know the game plan tomorrow. We know what's going to happen with us, BROM. They might change something up because they might know what weakness it was. Our weakness technically is our defense. If we don't put the best defense out tomorrow, then we're probably screwed. I'll be honest. You know, like I keep saying, I keep nagging and saying the same thing. Burrell and Kone, I still think we need one up front, not two. One up front will do, unless Burrell wants to play on the right wing, which he can do. You know, but do you sacrifice Dembele? That's up to him. You know, Dembele is pretty in good form. I've always been a big fan of Dembele. Sayo, I would like to see him in the middle a lot more in this game. I think he could be a big threat when it comes down to goals in that middle. You know, I think movement-wise, he can play on the right and the left. You know, but I see him as a free role midfielder. I think that's something he can work with in the middle with Varane and Maddison, you know. On the left, obviously, Chair. And on the right, Burrell, maybe Kone up front. I reckon Burrell could probably bring in them goals. And if we do attack, you can shift Burrell in there with Kone as well at the same time. So, you know, it's that rotational thing that you could do, like Middlesbrough did with their defence. You know, they had a back line which was rotating constantly, you know. But it's down to Julian at the end of the day. His tactics, he goes the way. We'll find out and we'll see on the night when we watch what happens. But in my opinion, he's going to stick with a 4-4-2, I reckon, you know, like last time. And go from there really. So yeah, but we know what's gonna happen. But we just need to come out with a win. You know, Tyler Smith's on international duty. Harvey Vale could be in the team. Ilya Sher could be the team. We haven't had any clock salt news yet. Ryan Colley, you know, he's injury at the moment. And obviously going from there. So yeah. Looking at the chats. Right, so I think we need to rotate a lot for tomorrow. Going to be a lot of tied legs. I think that was the whole main thing as well Monday. You know, it's looking on Friday night, there was a lot of tied legs, 100%. You know, there wasn't no consistency or understanding of what was going on. You know, everyone probably had too much turkey on Christmas Day and couldn't perform well. So yeah. Would think that Nick says would think that he would change the wingers with Poku, maybe Smith. Would like to see Hayden play, whether it's to replace Varane, as I can't see us drop one of our forwards, but as always we wait and see. Well, like I said, for Julian, he seems to like the team that he's got. He does want improvements, and he has, you know, said that people will be going. But I would say Poku would be a good shout for tomorrow night. You know, he could do well in that sense. Smith, I think, will do well on the left if Chair is injured still and doesn't get into the team. Hayden for Varane, or Hayden and Varane together. You know, Maddison might need a rest. He's been killing it this season. So yeah, if we're going to go defensive, Hayden and Varane might be the best options in that midfield. But there will be changes. I can't really say what changes there will be, but there will definitely be some changes in there. So yeah. Harvey Elliott, yo, what's up, man? Nice people. How are you doing, Harvey? How are you? You okay? Hopefully you're doing good. Good to see you in the chat with whatever that is you're saying. But it's good to see you. Hopefully you're having a good day. Yeah, but like I said, we'll wait and see what happens tomorrow. We'll be live tomorrow with the watch along. It's not on Sky. It will be on the QPR website. It will be. I don't think it is on Sky, to be honest. Actually, it should be because it's a Monday night game, but I'll have to check again. But yeah, we'll be live tomorrow night. Probably 7. What is the kickoff? 7:45. Yeah, 7:30ish. We'll see if we come on earlier. You know, we might do a bit of chit chat with you guys. See what happens. But yeah, that's pretty much the game plan for tomorrow. What needs to happen. Other than that, I would say Mbenge on the right, I'm still, you know, unsure on. You know, he's decent there in defensive ability, but attacking duty, I would say maybe change it up in the sense of pushing Jimmy up there and bringing Mbenge in the middle if we attack. But that's about it, really. That's all we can cover for now. Like I said, we've gone through key players that we need to watch out for. Like I said, we've we've been here before, you know, a couple of weeks ago. So, you know, Alfred Gilhurst is suspended for West Brom. You know, they have good attackers, you know, West Brom do, but we rarely saw them on that day. So yeah. Ryan says yes. Oh, well, let's talk transfers. All right, okay. All right, okay. Well, that's it for the match reaction, match preview. Anyway, you know, that's all we can say right now. But if you want to talk about transfers, there's not much to be said, really. There's nothing really to be said, unfortunately. We're interested in Ronnie. It's that simple. Ronnie Edwards is interested as well, I'm guessing, you know. Listen, the thing with Ronnie is he is a proper centre back, you know, a proper baller that wants to play football, you know, and he was happy at QPR. It was that simple, you know. He said it in his interview that his family are QPR fans, pretty much. You know, go to QPR. I don't see the deal collapsing. The only way you see it collapsing is if Southampton play a difficult ball with us, you know. We know Southampton are going to want a price, and it depending on whether we get him on loan or full transfer. Personally, for me, right now, if they said to me right now, who would you choose to keep, Davis or bring in Ronnie? I would personally bring in Ronnie, you know. Davis is on loan. We could buy him next season. Depending on the price, obviously, and the wage bill. But I think Davis enjoys his time here anyway. But my priority right now for QPR, it should be Ronnie Edwards. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I've been a fan of Ronnie Edwards since he was at Peterborough. You know, coming up as a young centre-back, you know, with me, I like I said, a lot of people focus on Premier League football a lot. I still do focus on Premier League football, but my main thing is seeing young talent grow into decent players. You know, I've always been fond of watching young talent grow into great players. You know, after watching obviously Messi for Barcelona, you know, I like Cristiano Ronaldo, but obviously he came from Sporting into United and went from there. But seeing players like homegrown players is really good, you know. But seeing obviously young talent like made in the EFL, pretty much, you know, we've had Eze was at the club, you know, we're bringing up good youngsters. But I think right now, Ronnie Edwards, I think there's other centre backs like, you know, there was like centre, I can't remember his name. He played for Burton Albion, I think it was. But yeah, there was a couple of good centre backs in League Two and League One that really did well in certain seasons. And Ronnie Edwards, I think, is the only one that's kind of come out of it really well. You know, there's also that left back, I think, for Sheffield United. What's that guy's name for Sheffield United actually? Let's have a look, because I really like him. I think the Sheffield United wing back would be a potential for the Premier League for us, to be honest. I just want to see what's his name. He is on the bench usually. Ain't Aaron Cresswell, I know that for a fact. That's Stoke. What am I on about? Right, let's have a look here. Harrison Burrows. Yes, he got it right. Same time. Yeah, Harrison Burrows was another young talent in the ranks of that lower league, you know, and that's what we're ambition to do, you know, bring young talent in from lower leagues, you know, and there is really good young talent. For example, I think Harvey Elliott said this, I think, because I noticed this guy when we played Cambridge in the cup game where last season we did. So there's a young guy called Daniel Barton, I believe, Barton or something like that. He's really good, honestly, really good. I would say he's a young talent that we definitely need to bring in. I'm just trying to figure out if I'm right with his name. I'm just looking for Cambridge now. It was definitely Cambridge, I'm sure of it. Where is it? Is it Cambridge? Dan Barton, Harvey Elliott says. Dan Barton. But it's definitely Cambridge, right? It's definitely Cambridge. I'm sure of it. It was Cambridge we played, right? I'm gonna have to... Barton, yeah? Daniel Barton. Taylor Richards. Barton. Let me see if I can find Daniel Barton. No, that's not him. Let me have a look on Google. He's not on there. Barton. Daniel. Sorry for the clicking on the keyboard. I do apologize. Yes, Daniel Barton. He is an English professional footballer who plays as a forward for Cambridge. He's 20 years old. He's a 2005 graduate, obviously, basically born in 2005. I'm just trying to see. He's only made 16 appearances for Cambridge. He has. I don't know if he's actually been playing for Cambridge lately. I don't think he has. I think he's in the academy, you know. But he is a forward. He's mainly an attacking midfielder, but he can play up front. I honestly think we should bring him in. He's someone that I think can grow into the club. He is tiny, but he's very skillful. And if anyone remembers the Cambridge game, you would know that he would grow into the, you know, he would go out on players, you know, be he's very skillful, honestly, very skillful. So yeah. What happened to FC26? Oh god, Harvey, jeez. I'll be honest, mate, I've been so busy with certain things with QPR at the moment, with obviously doing all of this, and I haven't really had a chance to jump on and play FC26, you know. I'm telling you right now, I'm in a debate with what I want to do. You know, like I said, I enjoy doing the QPR stuff. I really do. And I will still be doing it. But there is a part of me that misses, you know, content creating and gaming, you know. But for me, I enjoy more like FPS games, you know, shooter games, you know, with my friends and all that when we jump online. With FC26, when I started doing it, it was something that I was really fond of, you know. It was really enjoyable to do. But when it doesn't reach a certain aspect of what you want it to be, it's like, stop putting so much time into something that's not working, if you know what I'm saying. You know, no one really watches career mode, you know. And if I put a career mode video out, it's only going to be QPR. You know, people are only going to watch QPR on this channel, you know. If, like I said, if I do it on another channel, obviously it might work. But like I said, it takes time to work. I'd rather dedicate more of myself into something that you guys, well, what I enjoy and you guys, that's working, if that makes sense. I'm not saying it won't happen again. I'm just saying at the moment, until I have time, that will, you know, that will come back. You know, you never know. I might do it again. Like, I'm off on Thursday on New Year's Day. If we, you know, New Year's Eve when I come home, I might do something. We'll see what happens. You know, it takes time to plan. You know, I know a lot of people are like, oh, making excuses and all of that. Honestly, you know, I don't know what I'm doing yet. At the moment, this is my priority, the QPR stuff. I miss, like I said, I do miss the gaming aspect, but I mainly play FPS shooters at the moment with my mates, you know, with friends. So it's kind of one of the things, you know, you can't really mix two contents with one, you know. On Twitch, you could probably do it, but on YouTube, I don't see uploading FIFA videos and FPS video or whatever, you know. Some people might not enjoy it, so yeah. But right now on this channel, it's literally just football talk, that's it. That's where I want it to go to, football talk. You know, we'll see what happens with the QPR thing, but, you know, I can't promise anything, but it's not gone. I'll tell you that, it's not gone. I've just fallen out of love with FC26. You know, I play Football Manager a lot more because I enjoy that more, but FC26 right now, it's just the same career mode each year, and it's just annoying. You know, it's just boring in my opinion. I've lost the fun of it. So yeah. Nick says, oh wait, sorry, hang on. Reese says clubs. Listen, look, clubs is a good shout with you guys. You know, if we did a clubs, I believe there's QPR clubs out there already. They have the esports QPR clubs. I don't know what's going on with it, but clubs is a good shout on the channel with playing with you guys, you know. That would be a good shout. If we have time to do that, I'd probably try and organize that, and we'll see what happens with that. Nick, with whatever signings happen, I hope with the positions that we need are permanent, not loans. So let's work next season to give it a deal a go. Nick, I'll be honest with you. We're not gonna make the only permanent signing I can see happening is either youngsters or one permanent signing. I will say this: if he needs to bring in players, you got to remember the wage bill and the transfer market at the time. When Christian already says he will only bring in players that are right at the time. You know, at the moment, the only person that I can see a permanent signing is Ronnie Edwards. That's all. You know, he might bring Barton in on a permanent basis because he's young, but send him back out on loan to Cambridge or send him out on loan to someone to just make sure he's playing still, you know. With the keeper situation, if Ben Hamer doesn't extend his contract, it will only be a loan signing on a keeper, I reckon. It won't be a permanent signing. You know, we can't be signing a very decent keeper if Nardi's there, if Joe Walsh is there. You know, I don't see us signing a permanent keeper. That's the only problem. So yeah, I don't see that happening. At the moment, I just see Ronnie Edwards permanent, and now I'll be happy with that. But you got to remember, look at January last season. January, we brought in Escudino, Harvey Vale, and I can't remember who the other guy was, but the Esquidin we never saw play. Harvey Vale we never saw play. You know, they bought him in because at the right time, you know, it was a good price, if that makes sense. So yeah. Ryan says, do you think someone will leave or go out in January? I honestly think yes, 100%. So Ryan Colley, I don't know if he's actually injured or not, but Ryan Colley, he definitely needs to go out on loan. That's only coming from a fan basis. I don't want to see him on that. You know, I know he's young still, but I'd rather keep him happy and send him out on loan to get game time. Unless he's happy playing for the development squad, then cool. But he hasn't really spoke about anything about in the sense of like if he's unhappy or what, you know. You know, with Julian, you need to fight for your place at the end of the day. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with that at the end of the day. You know, Colley, I want to see out on loan. Escudina, I think we need to send out on loan. We need... I think, personally, we should bring back Emerson Sutton. Personally, I think Sutton is doing well on loan. And I think we need to bring him back, honestly, just to put him on the bench or something. There's a lot of talent in our development squad, like I said before. And I keep repeating myself on it. But, you know, half of the time, you got to look at the first team-wise. If you're not getting game time, you need to keep him happy some way. And the only way you're going to do that is by literally sending him out on loan and keeping him happy, you know. I personally just say Ryan Colley and Escudina right now is the only ones. Possibly Kieran Morgan, but it depends on what will go on with him. But I think the way Julian has said it, I think everyone's happy at QPR. And if they are not, then he has to make a decision on whether what you're doing is a permanent signing or is it a permanent loan, something like that. So yeah, Harvey says Yang Min Hook, that was the guy, Yang Min Hook. Yeah, we got him a loan from Tottenham. So yeah, that was, like I said, it was another loan. And I'll be honest, I don't know what to say on that one, you know, because I don't think he was brilliant. I think he's a good young talent, but I don't think he was brilliant for us. So yeah. Ryan says, do you actually think Ronnie will happen? Obviously, he loves the club, but as much as I want it to happen, I still don't think it will. I'll say this. If he doesn't come in on the 1st of January, it's not happening. It's only going to be a loan deal. You know, if it doesn't happen on the 1st of January, it will be a loan deal coming in. It'll be a loan deal until they can strike a deal. You know, I don't know behind the scenes what's been happening. All I've been told, or what I know, the information that I've seen is that, you know, QPR want him. You know, that it's that simple. QPR do want to bring him in. Nuri did say it, that the potential of him coming in was obviously, you know. The thing with Southampton is this. I know I'm changing it up quickly. The thing with Southampton is the only reason why we didn't bring him in the summer was the fact being that they let a player go, I reckon. They let a player go on deadline day, and that's why it collapsed, you know. I personally think until Southampton will not let him go unless it's a good price or someone comes in at Southampton. But I still think, honestly, if he's not even playing, and he wants to leave, if they want to sell him permanently, they're gonna want a good price tag for him, you know, and it's that simple. If he comes out on loan, then it's literally just gonna be a season loan, rest of the season loan, and then it's gonna be like a buy clause at the end of the season, something like that. But yeah, the Ronnie thing, I honestly believe it should happen. I think it will happen. You know, I got a funny feeling that 1st of January, like last season, 1st of January, we'll see on Instagram Ronnie Edwards has signed. I could be wrong. I'm not trying to promise anything or get your hopes up, but personally, that's what, if I was Christian Nuri, that's what I would do personally. So yeah, but I don't know what the wage bill's like at QPR. I don't know what the structure's like. You know, are we able to bring someone in at his wage caliber? I don't know how much he earns, but yeah, it's one of them things where I think let's just wait and hope. We got 1 week to see what happens. But I think realistically, if he comes in, then hooray. But I think we need to bring in a right back. Personally, I just get sick and tired of seeing Mbenge at right back. I do. I love Mbenge. I think he's my favorite player. You know, if I had a chance to have an interview with him, it would be Mbenge, 100%. But I would honestly say right back. I don't like his attacking ability, even though he did score. Alexa, stop. Sorry about that, people. I personally just think Mbenge is not good at attacking. He's more of a defensive threat. And you know, he's very good at right back when we have to defend a good talented winger. But I think right back we need a creative threat. We need someone creative that can help the team in midfield. So yeah. Nick says, I think Nori wants permanent signings, like he said before about Norrington Davis being only loan previous to Hamer. So like you said, I think they will need to get rid of some players to do this. Exactly, it's the truth. Honestly, it's the truth, Nick. I've you know, you got to kind of look at it. If you've played football games, if you've you understand a little bit how kind of what needs to happen. You know, Football Manager is more the most realistic game out there that you could possibly think of right now that is in that aspect. But I would personally say I would not be surprised if we hear Seller permanently move over to Germany. I would not be surprised if we see Bonner leave and some other players. You know, Sam Field is not getting any game time at the moment. And, you know, someone can snap him up, you know, depending on... We'll see in January what happens, because I know Julian's going to ask to get rid of some players, 100%. If he can bring in players and get rid of them, and it's a good price, then he will do it, you know. Julian is starting to build his team now, and that's what he wants, you know, players that wrap around him. You know, he didn't really get to bring in anyone that he wanted in the summer, because obviously he arrived late. But I would say, you know, they did bring a little bit of talent for him. But yeah, I would say majority of the time, loan, we'll probably see a lot of people go on loan, mainly youngsters or people that are not going to get first team football. But if we're going to bring in a talent, it's going to be one big talent, I think, only. That's it. So yeah. Ryan says, any specific right backs you would like to see at QPR? I would like to see, for starters, there's this guy called Nichols at Arsenal. He's a young, talented right back. He's a really good wing back. He's good at tackling, getting back, and he's good at attacking as well. You know, he's a very good... he's very young, he is, still, but I think it would turn out to be like Kyle Walker when Kyle Walker was at QPR. You know, I think Nichols is a good talent for Arsenal. He's very... You know, we could probably get him on loan without any wage bill spending. You know, they would probably pay his wage, which we could get away with. But honestly, I think Nichols would be a good right back for us. Honestly, he's young, talented. If you wanted to go with experience, I'd probably say right now, look at players that are not playing in the Premier League, you know, for example, or even in the Championship, you know. But at the end of the day, they're looking at youngsters and stuff like that. I don't know what... You know, since Christian Nuri's been in, he has looked at abroad, stuff abroad because it's cheaper. You know, there is talent out there abroad, but right now I can't actually think of anyone because, like I said, I haven't really concentrated on players abroad. I've just noticed players that are playing in England at the moment, and the only one that shines to me at right back that looks exciting is Nichols for Arsenal. You know, Nichols is really talented. He's really good. Have a look at him. He's really good, man. Honestly. Nick says, what's that? 15th or 17th lowest wage bill in the league, I think. Yeah, I like I said, I don't know. Like, I see on, you know, there's certain websites you can go on to have a look at it, but sometimes it's not accurate. You know, I believe our highest wage bill is Steve Cook, probably Steve Cook and Jimmy Dunn, possibly Ilya Share, but there was the way of saying it is this. So when Les Ferdinand and Tony Fernandez was at the club, I knew a scout there, someone that I would speak to, and the ambition was this: Les and Tony only wanted to bring in young talent that were, and players that wanted to play for the club that were under 10 grand a week. You know, that was what we was doing, 10 grand a week and under. On the wage bills, and that's why we struggled to sign players. That why we was getting, and everyone was getting annoyed, because their structure was they just wanted to find the next Messi, the next, you know, Eze, all of this and all of that. You know, I'm not a fan of Les as a technical director, and I'm not a fan of Tony Fernandez as an ownership. You know, I honestly believe they ruined the club at QPR. I have more respect for Bernie Eccleston and Briatore. I know a lot of people hated them because they wouldn't sign players, but at the end of the day, they saved us from liquidation. They saved us from being not a club again. And when Tony and all of them guys came in, they thought, all right, cool, let's rush this and bring in Mark Hughes or Harry Redknapp. Let's bring in Dribble Cisse. Let's bring in flipping all these old talents, bruv. These old has-beens. You know, I like Dribble Cisse, but if you're gonna throw him 80, 100 grand, Joey Barton 80, 100 grand, and you're getting relegated, that tells you that players don't care. You know, Ned Manua put it out there. Every player in that season has put it out there. Harry Redknapp didn't give a damn. He just in it for the wage at the end of the day. You know, it was like football manager, like dream, you know, dream for him. You know, let's bring in Loic Remy. Listen, don't get me wrong, Loic Remy is a quality player, but depending on what the wage bill was, you know, it was mental, you know, and you're getting relegated with these Champions League players. It's ridiculous, you know. Julius Cesar, you know, cracking world-class goalkeeper. How the hell did we bring him in? Money. Simple as that, you know. I just honestly think, you know, when it comes down to ownership and football, we're in the right place right now. You know, Christian Nuri, we don't want him to leave. I've wanted the Mittals in charge and the other guys in charge of this club for a long time, because they care about the club. They care about this club, this community, this whole aspect of making QPR top club again. You know, the others were only in it with money making, you know, and I get that, but at the end of the day, you can't just, you know, expect to get promotion and expect to bring managers like Critchley and stuff like that. You know, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna work. So yeah, I just honestly, you know, my little rant today is pretty much, you know, if Tony Fernandez ever came back, I'd literally be in that part of like, what the hell, you know, kind of thing. You know, like I said, Gareth Ainsworth, one of my dream players, you know, like watched him as a kid, you know, one of my idols. When he came to the club, I didn't know what to expect. You know, I knew it wasn't the right choice, but because I'm a big fan of Gareth Ainsworth, I stick by it. You know, but I did say he won't do well. You know, I did say that. You know, he doesn't play that type of attacking football. You know, you can tell how a club performed by the first day or first video of how they are. You know, that first day when he came into the club, don't get me wrong, it was a bit stupid to bring in people in doing the hacker and shit like that. You know, QPR players and that then were just laughing at that. It was just taking a piss, you know? you're just trying to build a Leicester City team that, you know, what Thingy did with taking them out buying a pizza and shit, you know? It's just stupid. Just, you know, it's ridiculous. Anyway, to Nick Westhoff says Salah was a waste of a sign. Right, okay. You know what? I'm gonna defend Salah here. Salah is not a waste of a signing. Listen, look, if anyone knows Salah, you got to look at it this way, and this is why I put it to Arsenal fans as well, right? There's only, you can, when you sign a player like Salah, you can't expect him to adapt a different playing style to then what he's been playing for other clubs. You know, when Marty saw they saw a tall guy for Marty to get into the box and score goals from crosses. That was Marty's playing style. You know, Salah is a player that plays Julian type of football, and this is why I said I think he would be a great player for under Julian as a striker. But I honestly think I'm going to defend Salah here. I like Salah. I think he's a really good talent. You know, he reminds me of certain other players. But I honestly think Salah just can only play a certain style of football, you know? He likes the ball when it's passed through to him. Or crossed in or something like that. He can't do much when the ball is at his feet. You know, if you're going to play him as a deep lying forward, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You know, he's a player that wants to score goals and runs onto the ball because he's pacey as hell. For his height, he's pacey, you know? And it just goes from there. So that's what I say. Listen, look, I would like to see Salah stay, but 100% he will leave. 100%. But I'm not going to, you know, diss him because I think Salah is a really good talent. I really like Salah. You know, people might not see that, but if you watch him closely, he gets really frustrated. And he got very emotional at Cardiff when he scored his first goal. You know, and I think we should support that, personally. So, yeah. Nick says, I think our wage bill is just under 30 million. I don't know, mate. I'll be honest. Hopefully, it's less than that. 30 million is a lot of money a year, you know. Reese says, do you think Julian will eventually look to recruit from the French leagues? 100%. 100%. Look what he's... So, what he tends to do is look at, like, academy stuff. He tends to bring up academy players into football, you know, into the teams. But the majority, he tends to look at the teams that are in his region of football. So technically, I reckon English football he'll be looking into. But he knows about French players. So if we bring in French players, he'll probably look at that as well, you know. Brentford did the same thing with Bremo. And Bremo came from League 2 in France. You know, he came from League 2 in France. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they do dip into the French league, you know, and look there, you know. I would say look at the Dutch league as well, because the Dutch league has really good talent as well as there. Nick says Steve Cook is the highest at 30k. Yeah, I had a feeling. He's around about 30k. So yeah, I personally think Steve Cook is the highest wage bill in the team. I wouldn't be, look, you're 34 years old. You know, he's at his end of his career pretty much. I hate to say it, but pretty much. And you know, he's gonna want a big wage just because he needs, you know, he might be rich as it is, you know, you never know, but he might be set for life. But you know, experience and, you know, goes a long way. You know, he's been in the Premier League, and it's just something that happens, you know, unfortunately, when players like that, you know. Jimmy Dunn, Ilya Shed, they might be on 20, you know. I don't know what the full function is, but yeah. Agree with Salah DB. I think unlucky in the wrong team at the wrong time. Yeah, like I said, if you watched him at pre-season, he looked a lot better in pre-season under Julian. Honestly, personally, my opinion, you know, you can hate me for saying it, but I personally think Salah is brilliant. I love Salah. I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's world class. He is an international player, and I just think it was the wrong time and the wrong manager, you know. He had an injury, a really bad injury, as far as everyone found, you know, what you could see in that. And it goes from there. Like, he did everything he could to get back, but his injury was really serious. So, but at the moment, I don't think anyone's really focusing on him in Germany. If we actually just check him out now, actually, let's just have a look, see what he's doing in Germany at the moment. Yeah, okay, cool, fair enough. Right, so he's only played. Has he even played a game for him? I don't know if he's played a game for him. Let's have a look. So he's Dusseldorf. He's played 10 games in Bundesliga, but no goals. He hasn't scored a goal, so he hasn't really been getting game time. So yeah, he's played 314 minutes. He has. The only goals really he scored is the friendlies that he did when he was in the friendly game. So yeah, but he hasn't really scored. He hasn't scored a goal whatsoever. So yeah, but his stats says it all, man. Look, FC Lugano, which we bought him off, I believe it was. 118 apps, 51 goals, 12 assists. Roma under 19s, 59 apps, 40 goals, 7 assists. Cremones, 40 goals. You know, the goals are there. You know, Rome, when he played for Roma, he played 5 apps, 3 goals. I don't know if anyone knew this, but he was a big talent. You know, he's a big talent, which I you know, thought he was going to do really well at QPR. So, you know, I think Salah is an incredible player, but I just think he plays a certain way. You know, like with Gyökeres, I think he plays a certain way. You know, everyone watches Gyökeres in the Championship. You know, he likes the ball played in front of him, or he does all the work himself. It's that simple. Poku, Reese says, Poku to start tomorrow. Sorry for changing the subject. You don't have to apologize for changing the subject. It's okay. But Poku, I want to see start. I really do. I want to see Poku thrive for us. You know, Poku's a great talent. You know, I think Poku has a lot of work to do, but he's gonna thrive for us 100%. I like Poku, man. Poku killed it last season for Peterborough. Flipping killed it, man. And all I want to do is see these players become really good talent for us. You know, I really think Julian is the one to do it for us. Honestly, you know, we have a great team right now, but we need to fix our defensive issues. That's all. You know, well, pretty much since the Portsmouth game, I would say attacking wise, we need to fix certain things, you know, but it's gonna take time. And that's why I say we need to stick into the Championship next season and see how we do then. Because if we do get promoted into the if we get into the playoffs this season and get promoted, I don't want to be that yo-yo club. I really don't, you know. And it's technically when he goes in there, if we go Premier League next season, he's got to be like, oh shit, right, okay, well, we need to buy some certain players. We need to do this quickly. We need to think of where we're going, you know, because I'm not getting relegated. I'm telling you right now, I don't want to see QPR getting relegated. It's that simple, you know. Don't get me wrong. Us going to the Premier League will help my channel big time. But oh, no, I'm joking. But yeah, I personally would like to see Julian. I think Julian will be the one to get us promoted, but I don't want it happening this season. Next season would be great. But this season right now, I think if we finish in the playoffs, I'd be happy with that, to be honest, yeah. One of Poku's more desirable attributes was his ability to cross and great accuracy when he came off of the bench, and he hasn't really whipped anything in. It's because of the playing style. It's a different playing style, you know, what he's playing, you know. Technically, what he wants from his players, his wingers, is either to run the ball into the box and give it to the strikers. He wants them to be more a creative threat, but more a creative opportunities as well. You know, Ilias Share likes to put the ball on his right foot and shoot. Poku likes to put the ball on his left foot and shoot. You know, they have similarities, you know, but I don't think Julian likes it. I think Julian prefers his wingers, like what Sato does, likes to get around the back of the player into the box, whether that's shoot or pass the ball into the strikers. It's that simple. So yeah. Nick says, at the end of the day, it's hard to make judgment on as who's coming to end of contracts, how long they got left, and just to improve it as he sees fit and believe in him. Yeah, listen, look, a team is only going to work well if the manager brings in the players or works with the players to adapt in that style. You know, the style of play that he likes is is majority of the players that we have already can play that style. But I would personally still say that there's a lot of things that need to be put into context on what playing style is it? Is it attacking? Is it defensive? Are we playing deep lying or what? You know, because when Portsmouth played against us, it wasn't great. It really wasn't. So yeah. Ryan says, in our style of play, what is the winger's main job? Is it crossing, cutting in, or something else? That I can't answer because I still am still trying to understand it myself. You know, I've looked at heat maps, I've looked at this and that, and the majority thing I can see is the wingers are playing as creative threats, not not inside forwards. They're playing like wingers. So he's technically using wingers, not inside forwards. He is. He likes to spread the game out more, but it's a bit weird because at Rennes he did do something a bit different. You know, he was using pretty much 3 forwards, not 2. So yeah. I don't know what to say on it, but listen, Julian at the end of the day is a great manager. You know, he's good for us. You know, Christian Uri done a good job in bringing him in. I don't know how I'd feel if we had brought in the other guy from Norwich. But yeah, I'm still understanding what he's doing at the club. I know what Christian Uri is doing, but I just still need to look at the formation, the tactics, and still understand what the game plan is. But at the start of the season, we all saw the attacking threat, and that's what I want to see more often is the attacking threat. So yeah, Nick says, "Gotta go." Cheers, DB and everyone. Well, Nick, we're gonna end it there anyway. We're going on for quite an hour, almost yet again like yesterday. But yeah, I would say we're gonna end it there anyway. Nick, have a good evening. For starters, thank you everyone for tuning in. Cheers for tuning in. Harvey Elliott, shouts to you, West 12, Ryan, all of you guys tuning in and you know, chatting away with me. Thank you everyone, whoever does tune in. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. We'll be live tomorrow night. We will, for the West Brom game. Hopefully you have a good evening and peace, love, positivity as always. And we'll catch you tomorrow. Thank you everyone and peace.